We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
And now, a message from McAfee.
Your package couldn't be delivered.
You owe thousands in unpaid tolls!
You want a free gift?
If texts like these sound familiar, McAfee can help. McAfee automatically identifies text and email scams as well as AI-generated audio to help you stay safe. If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
Two of our favorite podcasts are crossing over every 2 weeks. Kate Achille of Up Next at Work and George LaRocque of Work Tech look at the tech, business, and people that impact our HR and work tech industry. It's a crosspod with a unique strategic lens on what's happening in our world. Enjoy!
Kate, we're back.
That we are. Here we go. Another edition.
Another edition of Up Next at Work Tech. And it's quite an edition at that. We cover a lot of different bases here this week.
Yeah, a lot's been going on again in all different directions, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many. We
Yeah.
could extend these and do like a 90-minute podcast, but we don't want to do that.
Yeah. No one has that long of a commute anymore, I hope. So
Right. Very true. All right. So I'll get started, and I'll get started selfishly with some of my own work. I put out the Q3 Global Work Tech Market Briefing and did my live update today. There's an insight, though. The report's out there at oneworktech.com. If you're interested in seeing where the money's going, go there. But the insight that I keep talking about is this paradox we have where this year is shaping up to be possibly the year, like the number 3 year behind 2021 and 2022. Like we, through Q3, about 4.0, like what? We did 4.9 billion through Q3. A lot of big deals, a lot of deals overall, a lot of AI got funded. And when I say that, like your reaction is exactly the paradox that I'm talking about. It's especially for the early stage founders, folks coming to market, it doesn't feel like money's flowing like it was in 2021 and 2022. And let's say not everybody gets money. It's not easy for everyone, and it shouldn't be. It's venture capital. There's a lot of risk, and you've got to, it's not a meritocracy. There's a lot of, old boys network you've got to fight through, and there's a lot of subjectivity in the process. And that's not a good thing. But in this case, what I'm seeing is this amazing wave of early stage startups because the barrier of entry has like all but been eliminated. Like with all this vibe coding and the AI used to develop products, it's like developing a product it has never been easier or faster.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we have a lot of folks that have felt a lot of pain in HR and finding jobs and hiring people. So we've always been a category with a lot of folks who don't know anything about the category, but they've hired someone before, or they've fired someone before.
Or they got a job.
Yeah. And they know how to do it better. So there's a lot of that. Then we've got so more startups, right? But it's not the only part. Then we've got this glut of companies that raised really early stage funding. Maybe it was friends and family or an angel round or a pre-seed round, maybe a seed round. And they did it 2.5 years ago and the market turned. And they've been sitting on that funding, managing their burn rate effectively, but they were SaaS or they were AI-enabled SaaS. They've been waiting to raise. And now they're saying, okay, we can't wait any longer and we're out raising. And so now they're all out in the mix. And not that they're going to get the money and those other early stage founders aren't, but that it's just gumming everything up. And I think it's more challenging for the early stage than it ever has been, even though, insane amounts of money are once again flowing into the category. So that was like the paradox that I've been talking about.
Do you have advice for the early stage folks then?
Do I have advice for the early stage folks? I think it is, I talked about two types of early stage folks. So the latter, the folks who have been waiting and are coming out to market, I think before you go raise, you need to get some external eyes who are going to be very real with you about your product, about where the market's going, and about maybe some difficult decisions you need to make sooner than later regarding viability here. The former, the folks who are coming to market, I would say get out from under or out from within your bubble that you're in, which is, founder, co-founder ideas taking over the world, and start participating in the market and getting some views to what's actually happening. A lot of these early stage founders come to me forever now, and I wonder, did you Google recruiting technology, or did you Google payroll technology, or and just
how'd you find me?
Yeah, because you don't seem to be aware that there are all these other companies who are doing what you do. And on one hand, a very wise person named Jean Achille at the Pitch Fest actually said,
I know her.
You do know her. You do know her. She said to one of the startups, and I've quoted her so many times since September, if you didn't have competitors, it would mean you probably didn't have a market. So embrace that there's a market here and learn where you fit. And so I would say start, spending some time out there with folks who can expose you to that market. And that may help you refine your story and beat some of that glut of companies that you're competing with.
Yeah, I've been saying this is the biggest little space in the world, because I think, I've heard, and obviously I've never done the legwork, but I've heard that there's something like 5,000 different HR tech vendors.
At least, yeah.
At least. I think that's the number that like Ben Eubanks tends to quote.
Okay.
So we'll trust Ben on that, at least 5,000. Yet I would argue that most of them at least know each other in some capacity, which is why it's the biggest little space out there. And if they don't know each other, they know you, or they know, Madeline, or they know someone who's like of influence, or an analyst, or, known, we'll say.
Yeah. What's funny, I met a founder today that was a chief revenue officer at a company at a time when I was advising his CEO on strategy. Never met this guy. And he was at another company where at a time when I was on site there multiple times. And it's just like, eventually we bump into each other, right? And it was like, I can't believe we haven't crossed paths, but it's a small world. We're going to find each other at some point.
And it's only gotten smaller. That is for sure. And I guess it's getting smaller, or more interconnected, I guess we can say, with everything that's happening.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. Or at least that's the vibe I'm getting, which I guess leads us to our next story, which is about agents, the word of the year, at least in the HR tech space, I'll say.
Everywhere.
So this is one of the stories that came out of Workday Rising EMEA this week, one of the many, many press releases that I saw. So Workday has updated their messaging to say that they are an enterprise AI platform for managing people, money, and agents. The three things that make the world go round. And so this is yet another acquisition on Workday's part. They've been on definitely a streak the last few months, and they are acquiring, and I am not making this up, a company named PipeDream. And PipeDream is a leading integration platform for AI agents with more than 3,000 pre-built connectors to the most widely used business applications. That's a lot. I guess some of those applications are things like Asana and Jira and HubSpot. So, I mean, those are
Right.
everyday applications. But from what I understand, Workday is intending to become this end-to-end agent platform for work. Thoughts?
Like, what a great segue from raising money to a story about a company called PipeDream. That is, Pipe Dreams. So what's interesting is there are a couple of companies that come to mind that do a little bit of what it sounds like PipeDream does, if not exactly the same thing. And one is Stack One. And I don't know Stack One that well. I'm very aware of them and what they do. And that's because they've sort of been like the darling of the next wave of integration tools, sort of built for the AI age. And this acquisition must have them, I would imagine they're like, that just took Workday off the table for them. And then there was a company called Combo with a K that was sort of I know very involved with AI. And when I say pre-AI, just meaning they were already in the market when OpenAI launched, and we all started down this path that has led us to this integrating via agents and MCP in the future and all this new technology. And I think you had a really good point around this press release, which is, yes, Workday has been on a tear, maybe so much so that they forgot to talk about at least one of their acquisitions in this press release.
They did. In the part where they talk about becoming an end-to-end platform for building AI agents for work, they talk about Sana and they talk about Flowise. They do not mention Paradox, who are definitely, in my opinion, an AI agent for work, or at least intending to be. And, even the examples that they give in the press release about ways you could use this agents in general, they give an example about accelerating performance reviews. So they're obviously thinking in terms of HR, and recruiting. So I don't know why Paradox was left out of this story.
I don't know either. I just interviewed Adam Godson, the CEO of Paradox, and in doing and preparing for that, I looked at all of the messaging around that acquisition, and there are many people who would debate both of us on whether they're an agent or not. And I would say my answer would be, are any of the folks calling themselves agents really agents? That's beside the point.
Yeah.
But Workday has messaged around the Paradox acquisition around agents, right? So
yes. Intentionally messaged as agents. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that was in multiple, messaging documents that were out there that I found, whether it was the press release or whether it was stuff that they had put into the market in interviews and the B2B press, yada, yada. Part of me wonders, it's Workday. So was it intentionally left out? And then part of me wonders, was it just poor comms? Is it just like, oops?
Yeah, I mean, maybe because it came out of Rising in EMEA, they didn't think, maybe that was, but again, I know, it was a major acquisition for this year, so you would still think.
Well, they talked about, but Sana is a European company now that I think of it. So yeah, maybe they were trying to
lean into that.
Yeah. But but it's not like Paradox was only a North American player.
Yeah. And it's not like Workday couldn't take them into new markets if they did, if they weren't already. But to your point also, what is an agent? It's kind of the existential question of the year.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of a lead into our next story, which is from Reddit.
Oh boy.
And this one is about a person who did not receive their paycheck because the AI, so their company has adopted a new payroll system that is AI based, and they are a junior software engineer. And the payroll system decided that there was some sort of abnormality with their hours for this payroll period because they had left early one day to go to the dentist. And as a result, they're not getting paid. And when they flagged the issue to HR, they were told that it would get resolved in the next pay period, which means they're now going without their pay for like an entire month. And, in the story that they tell on Reddit, they're saying, so I'm now sitting here debugging code while worrying if I'll be able to afford my lunches until this is fixed. So that begs the question of, I understand automating things, but where is the human? And can we not write physical checks anymore or print physical checks? Because it seems like, we should be able to pay people even when
Yeah.
the bot, you know.
And anybody who's been anywhere near a payroll, running a payroll, like I don't care whether you've done it for a large enterprise or a small shop, abnormalities in payroll running is kind of the normality in running payroll. And the whole process is built to flag those abnormalities and correct them and get everybody paid on time. So it's to have to position, if this AI payroll, that's a really poorly developed AI payroll. And even, so the immediate thought is, like, to your point, where's the human in the loop? So there's an abnormality, flag the human takes a look and corrects it or approves it.
Yeah. They say their payment was paused. So how did no one catch that someone's payroll was paused? And that seems like something that should have been flagged both by the system and then caught by a human.
Yeah. In this day and age, there's no reason that person should have to wait a month for their paycheck.
No.
Physical check, to your point, or I mean, most of the payroll systems that I have seen, there's a facility there to make an exception and
an off cycle. Yeah, there has to be an off cycle payment option. And it does say actually in the post that they work at a mid-sized startup. So I know everybody defines company sizes differently,
right.
But mid-size should be a relatively good size organization.
Well,
so
it sounds like the size, should be able to, like, some other human can go, we'll get you paid. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah. And, the other issue is, was it the dentist appointment that caused this? Because they're not going to be the only person that has to go to the doctor or the dentist,
right.
Or God forbid there's some other emergency. Life happens every single day to all of us. So this is something that should have been figured out way before implementation happened.
Yeah.
And there should have been also training for, when these situations occur.
Yeah.
So that is a very unfortunate.
There are a lot of I joked about it earlier, but there are a lot of products coming to market right now. And it's, I had a lot of pain running payroll, and we can do a better job with payroll or HR or whatever. And I don't know any of the details on this story, but it reeks of a really cost-effective solution that's not an effective solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's be real, we all go to work to get paid.
Right. That's kind of the only reason we go to work.
Exactly.
The primary reason, I should say.
Primary reason. All right. This next story I'm going to just warn is a huge bummer. And I'm going to put a little content warning on this, that it does involve some violence, place violence. So if that is not something you want to listen to, you might want to fast forward. But I do feel that it's an important story to tell because I don't think it's getting enough attention in this current news cycle, where too many things are happening at once. So this is the story about Amber Check, who was a 20-year-old welder living in Minnesota. She was working on a job site, and one of her coworkers, a 40-year-old man, decided he did not like her. And unfortunately for Amber, he escalated that to the point that he murdered her at work in a very gruesome way. And the reason this relates to what we're talking about, though, is apparently, this was a sort of long-standing issue between Amber and her murderer, and she had actually gone to HR several times. So, kind of going to what we were just talking about with human in the loop, where's the escalation?
Yeah.
Right after this man committed this heinous crime, he walked over to a coworker, told them exactly what he had done, and he's actually told the authorities, I did not like her, and I had been planning to do this for some time. So this was a premeditated attack. It's obviously well known that there was friction.
And it's like all on video.
It's all on video. Yeah. Used tools from the job site to commit this. So where is HR? And part of why I'm bringing this up is right now there's been a huge push in the HR tech space, specifically around frontline workers.
Right.
So I would argue that welders and tradespeople are frontline workers. What are we doing? Where is HR? Where's the escalation? How is technology helping these people? What would that look like?
Yeah. It's so sad. It's somebody who is super young. You said like 20 years old, and kind of doing like there's a lot of talk right now about skilled trades, and a welder would be a skilled tradesperson, and just at the beginning of her career, following a path that, should have, again, at the very beginning, technology may have been completely irrelevant to what happened. It may or may not be, but how about an agent that looks at what's been filed and says, we might want to investigate these things, have somebody take a look at these for potential investigation. There are systems like HR Acuity is one of them that does investigation that helps with that process. I should say they don't do the investigation.
Yeah.
And I would imagine having access to that information, that would be a super helpful AI for the employees at risk, primarily, period, end of statement, but also everybody involved. The whole workplace just went through trauma as well.
Yeah.
So, how about an agent like that?
Yeah. You don't hear about like the EAP anymore, really. That was something that we used to talk about with some frequency. I haven't really heard that acronym lately, but to your point, where's an agent, where's a red flag agent?
Right.
That says okay, this person's now contacted you 5 times, after 3, that should have been, 3 strikes, you're out in my book. But again, is there an agent that could be saying, hey, it's been too many times, this needs to be escalated? And, again, these job sites, obviously there's lots of changes, there's lots of people coming and going. But I do think we need to be looking at all angles is kind of why I brought this up.
Right. No, it's important. I'm glad you brought it up, and thanks for doing the content warning up front. That was a good idea.
Yeah. This one also, it also speaks to diversity in the workplace too. That was the other reason I wanted to bring this up. A lot of people talk about why aren't there more women in the trades and things like that. And I do think, this goes to psychological safety and physical safety, which is something that also is something that needs to be elevated in conversations as well.
Yeah.
So now that we've bummed everyone out, I do encourage everybody to look into that story, though, if they are interested, because it is, again, not getting a lot of press. But now that we have taken it down, we will try to bring you back up with a story that Verge found that talks about HR in a much different light.
Yeah.
So.
Which I have to say, when I found this story, I thought it was ridiculous for a certain number of reasons. And then you, with a spidey sense, found a whole other reason this may be even more ridiculous. So the story was in the Economist this past week or so. The headline, which definitely got my attention, that's how, was how HR took over the world. And it's an article about how the HR profession has grown and how it is so strategic. And my reaction was somebody needs to tell HR that they're strategic now. We got to tell them. And we've got to tell them that they took over the world, because I haven't seen this shift. I think there's probably good points to how many HR people there are now or what have you. But mind you, there were stories about, I know Netflix has since had some layoffs, but there were stories about the large number of HR people at Netflix and how they were correlating that to all of their success and all of their great positive metrics around engagement and culture and et cetera, at least what we're aware of. So I'm going to let you talk about I sent this to you, and I want you to get all the props for what you discovered, because I just thought it was on top of being just sort of ludicrous I thought I was boy, this is really poorly written. And when I said that to you, take it away, Kate.
Well, so to give the folks listening a little backstory, so the article is, according to The Economist, it is a 4-minute read. And as I looked at it when George sent it to me, it's a lot of stats.
Yeah.
It's mostly a bunch of stats. There are a few vendors mentioned. There are a few, universities mentioned, et cetera, et cetera. What struck me, though, is as I was reading it, there's no byline. So I don't know who wrote this. And the reason that I found that so odd is there is an illustration at the top, and the illustration is accredited to the illustrator. So why does the article not have a byline? It doesn't even say like Economist editorial team. So I
Right.
don't know if this is some sort of SpawnCon by, I don't know, an
Yeah.
HR association. I don't see any obvious connection back to one of like the, credentialing bodies or anything like that. And then, George, when you and I were talking before, we tossed around the idea that is this AI work slop? Like,
Right.
and it could be because, some of the stats that are in here are very new, kind of like that top of mind potentially in the LLMs right now. And one of them is that Challenger Gray and Christmas study that's been like everywhere lately.
Yeah, it's interesting because you made this point and I was looking at it thinking, it's so interesting they brought all these different stats together. It kind of, we don't know if this is AI slop or not, but it kind of reads like what Perplexity brings back. It kind of reads like,
it's disjointed in terms of the.
Yeah. And I'll use these tools to research. And there are many times I get something back like this and I'm like, well, I want to remove these stats and focus on these sources or focus on, this. And here's really what I think the point is. And you have to, they didn't really work with the clay that was brought back. And I'm just going to say it, whether it was a human who did this or an AI who did it, an editor really needed to work with it,
Yeah, there's, and for the Economist, which has very, very high editorial standards. I mean, I'll give our listeners here a little sample. There's the part that I'm looking at. There's a section of it that talks about there are signs that the HR boom could soon turn to bust. And the last part of that paragraph says Amazon, an e-commerce giant, which who doesn't know what Amazon is said to have included many HR roles in the 14,000 jobs it cut last month. Meanwhile, at least in America, enthusiasm for DEI has faded amid complaints of wokeness. And then it jumps to AI may make matters worse.
Yeah, that's a little,
we're just a little all over the place. And that part about like explaining who Amazon is in the year 2025. And also the term e-commerce is horribly dated at this point. And I say that having worked in e-commerce back when we still called it that. I don't know. I mean, maybe we should throw it into Perplexity or, one of them and see what happens.
The thing that got me was the headline too is, how HR took over the world. And okay, the subhead is the profession has rocketed in size and stature. Will AI shrink it? But it's all of this, puffing up, how it got too big and all of this. It's involved in all this strategic stuff because of COVID and because of the AI and reskilling. And then it sort of ends with like, the rise of the machines looks like bad news for HR. And I just found it just not, it
doesn't say anything.
Yeah. I didn't really get the story. What I got was it's, everybody loves to hate HR, and HR certainly has, different HR departments have done things that, they've brought it on, it's unfortunate, but largely the profession's not like that. And most HR people are not like that. But this it just felt lazy. It feels very lazy to me.
Yeah.
But if it's true, we should tell them how strategic they are.
We should probably warn them. I hope they're listening. But yeah, I do think it's weird that the article doesn't get to the actual part about AI, the piece that I just called out, until the second to last paragraph.
Yep.
For folks who don't have Economist subscriptions, just know you're taking over the world and that AI may make your jobs harder. I think you probably knew that by now, but if not, we're here to reinforce that for you.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of hope because the CEO and founder, I think, of NVIDIA, at least the CEO of NVIDIA, did say this week that AI will make everyone a lot busier, so we don't have to worry about job loss anymore. It's that we're going to get AI is going to cover a lot of things, and then a lot of other things are going to be on your plate because of that. So
I don't need to be busier. Is it? I read, I can't find the stat right now, but I read some statistic about how productivity is up from like the late 80s, and it's up like, 400% or something like that. And I was like, man, I was born in the wrong decade. I would love to go back to just be like an abacus at this point.
Yeah.
I really don't need to be busier. But yeah, there we are. Maybe the AI will make us busier. Maybe it will do that administrative work for us and we'll have more time to be strategic.
I don't know.
Jury's
The jury is so out on this and confused. The jury is out and confused.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure out the bubble too, the AI bubble.
That's true. That's true. That's for next time. We'll probably go full cycle on the AI bubble between now and the next time we record.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, we did it once again. What's our pit and peak for the week, George? What's yours?
For me, the pit, it's got to be Amber. Check. Yeah. There's nothing else in my world that compares to that. That's a super bummer. And I hope that HR, at least somebody somewhere sees that story and goes, hey, we need a process for escalating these things. And we don't get another story somewhere else because of it. I think the peak is it's a short week next week. And it is, it is my favorite holiday. Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday for all the canned reasons everybody gives. It's like just everybody gets together and and that's it. But I do love a good 4-day weekend. So that's the other.
Yeah. Well, I will agree with you on the Amber Check story definitely being the pit of the week. But to your point, I do hope that it inspires some change and that justice prevails for Amber. And in terms of a peak, yes, Thanksgiving is coming. And on a very, very silly note, I ordered myself a Skip It, which was a big toy in the 90s when I was a kid. If you remember.
It goes around your foot?
Yep. While we were recording, it just got delivered. And so I should probably put emergency services on speed dial and try to not injure myself since I'm definitely far too old to be using a Skip It. But I'm very excited
That's awesome.
To try it this weekend, I guess, and hopefully not hurt myself in the process.
All right. Well, now we have something to follow up on next time because I'm dying to know, is Kate
in a cast? Or is it, or is she still standing? There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
But, well, for everyone who is listening, I guess, if you're in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving. And we'll talk again.
And thanks for listening. All right.
For listening. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to or watching Up Next at WorkTech, brought to you by the Work Defined Podcast Network, the Devon Group, and WorkTech.